and welcome back, guys, to Ignite Your Faith, the third episode. You know what? I'm glad we finally made it to this third episode. But anyways, guys, I'm Jason, and across the table is the man, Alex. You know him. You love him. You got to love him. He's got a beautiful beard. Look at him. Anyways, we are the Bearded Christians, guys. Today we got kind of an interesting episode. I think this is going to really hit home for a lot of people. I have seen numerous posts on Facebook. I don't know, Alex, you don't do Facebook.
Not too much.
But I'm in a couple of Christian groups, and through those groups, I see a lot of guys asking for help, mainly prayers. And a lot of guys going, oh, man, I'm battling demons. And it all goes back to lust. I feel like lust is a number one issue in Western civilization.
Oh, yes.
It really seems to be one of those issues. Everybody's cheating on everybody. Divorce rates 50%. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So I guess I'm gonna let you kind of give a definition.
No, sure, yeah. So let's I just thought before we get started into the effects and the problems and everything on lust, get into defining it. In our language and also in the Bible, right?
Absolutely.
So just to give a little background, lust, we see lust first, the idea of lust first come into to play with the Ten Commandments, right? So we have the very last commandment. It says, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. This is the beginning of lust. This is also what is referred to in Jesus in when he's given the Sermon on the Mount in chapter 5. And he says, you have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So you have covet, then becomes lust. So what is covet? Covet is a heavy desire of something that is somebody else's, right?
Right.
So you see the beginning of covet with Lucifer and Satan in heaven. He coveted the power of God.
Right.
Right.
It's like a longing for
yes,
it.
Like, something that belongs or not to yours. It's not desire is one thing, but coveting is desiring something that is not rightfully yours.
So would you say jealousy comes out of that as well?
Probably.
Big part of it?
Yeah, I mean, coveting something, envy, jealousy, all of that stuff arises from me not having what you have and I want it.
Right.
Right. So then we get to lust. Is coveting can be anything. Lust is lusting after another man's wife with the intent of sex, right?
Okay.
Because Jesus says, you have heard it said that it is wrong for a man to commit adultery. That is the action. Right? He said, but I say that if a man desires a woman with lustful intent. So now he's saying the intent that comes before the adultery, that's wrong. The reason that this is interesting, because in the Ten Commandments, the last few commandments, the last three, just really, really quick, it says, you shall not commit adultery, and then it says you shall not steal, which deals with your neighbor's property.
Right.
You shall not tell a false testimony against your neighbor, deals with lying to your neighbor. Then it says you shall not covet your neighbor's house. This deals with desire. So your actions should not take from your neighbor. Your mouth should not speak lies to your neighbor. You should not covet or even desire things. So in those last three commitments, he's covering your actions, your mouth, and your motives for what you're doing towards your neighbor. And then Jesus follows it up and says, you've heard it's wrong to commit adultery, but I'm telling you the desire itself to look at something with a sexual desire, that's wrong. It's a heart issue. It's not just the action.
Right.
We're looking at the heart here.
Okay, curveball.
Okay.
So can you connect that with loving thy neighbor? So you have a specific set of rules that at the end of the Ten Commandments, and telling you not to lust after or even have the desire to go after your neighbor's things. So can you tie that to loving thy neighbor?
So what the opposite of that, let's say if I'm coveting something that's yours, instead I want God to bless you.
Right.
Right. Yours is like, I want blessing. I don't want to take from you.
Right.
I want to bless you. So it's just wanting more for your neighbor, loving your neighbor, not seeing something, but when you see it, being grateful for your neighbor and your enemy. That's why Jesus said to love.
Right.
It's like, for me, not that I have like death enemies that will wish death upon me, but people that people that I don't get along with, like enemies, right?
Yeah.
I still bless. I intentionally pray for God's blessings on them, right? And to me, that's the opposite of coveting. And
Gotcha.
so when we're talking about lust, the root comes all the way down to the Ten Commandments, and then it's desiring a spouse or a person that's not yours with because of sexual desire.
Right.
Because you can have unhealthy, like lust for things, but in the context of the Sermon on the Mount, he followed it with adultery, right? So he's saying
specifically the sexual thoughts and the sexual
desires
deviance
that led to the adultery.
Right.
Is what led to the adultery is just as wrong as the adultery. So he's like nip it in the bud now.
Gotcha. I like that. That's actually really fantastic, especially the way you just related that to coveting the neighbor, or coveting, not thou shalt not, whatever you said about the neighbor, not doing that. Anyways, so guys, we have some statistics. I think we're going to go straight into providing you guys with some statistics. This has to do with it's 5 statistics that deal with pornography addiction that I found on a website by Recovery Village. Actually, it's not their website. They actually are a company that specializes in many forms of rehab, and it includes substance abuse, pornography, sexual addictions, things like that. So number one, it comes right off the bat, 40 million adults visit pornography websites regularly. That's a lot. That means 40 million people are literally doing things they should not be doing on their phone or their computer. Then you go to number 2, 10% of U.S. adults admit to having an addiction. And I believe that is to porn. Then number 3 is 17% of all women have a porn addiction. That one kind of shocked me.
Yeah.
I felt like this is more prevalent within men, and it probably is, but 17% feels like that's a pretty big number. But, I mean, I know women have their own sexual appetites, but I just kind of, for whatever reason, that threw me off because I felt like men is the problem here.
Yeah. It's it seems like I don't know if it's a newer phenomenon or if it's just maybe because we're paying attention more, but it seems like women are. You're seeing it like with these stats how they're getting more and more into viewing porn. But I still believe it's
More the guys?
Yes, yeah.
Sorry, fellas. We love you, but we do feel like it is more of a testosterone kind of thing. And it's sad because I have seen guys that are actually addicted to sex, and it really
absolutely.
destroys them.
Yes.
So number 4, we have 20% of men and 13% of women admit to accessing porn at work. Now, I did look up a few things, but I did not grab the statistics. But it actually broke down to how much actual time at work was lost, how much it actually costed the company, the entire United States, as far as all the companies, and it was up in the billions of hours lost of people work because they're looking at pornography at work.
See, out of all the ones that get me, that one gets me the most.
The porn at work?
Yeah, because I just don't get that. I would be too scared, man. I do not want to be caught looking at. I don't want to be caught looking at porn anytime. But at work, that's just that one. That's just,
well, and so we'll get into it. I think a little bit lower. I think I have it explains it a little bit about why it's at work. It's in a blog by Dr. Sean McDowell.
Okay.
We'll get in that a little bit later. But anyways, but I do feel like because people are stuck at their offices, and I feel like that's probably the biggest point of where it would probably happen, is you got people that get bored behind their computer, and then they just start typing in funky little things that they shouldn't be typing in, and next thing you know, you're off to the races.
I guess if you think about it like an addiction, I got high at work when I wasn't supposed to all the time.
Right.
So if porn is just there
It is. It's like right there.
Exactly.
At our hands.
So
like you can easily access it. But nowadays, so a lot of these companies, they have firewalls installed. They literally see your online activity at all times. Yeah. So you really need to just not do it, but watch yourselves because they are cracking down on it because it is causing a lot of lost time for these companies. Anyways, and then I have number 5 is 70% of women admit to keeping internet activity hidden from public. I don't think that refers to just pornography.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I honestly believe that is having affairs or flirting, doing dirty things that you shouldn't be doing online, specific websites, which I'm not going to give websites out because that's just not how we are. We're Christian. We don't believe in that kind of stuff. But I do think that a lot of it has to do with specific websites where you perform specific acts and you do things that you shouldn't be doing in front of the camera.
No, yeah, I agree.
And I know back with, I want to say I was still doing a lot of work with the United Bikers charity. And there was a lady that come to find out that, man, it was a long story. And one day I'll have to give you the entire story because it's actually kind of funny. But come to find out, this lady was not who she said she was supposed to be helping us with human trafficking and all kinds of stuff. Come to find out, man, she was doing things on Backpage is it Backpage?
Back then, was it Backpage?
I think they shut down now because that dude got sued for human trafficking. But
because I was a big Riverfront Times guy, and Backpage was in the back of it was Backpage.
Backpage.
Yeah, that's
so
what it was.
She was apparently doing things on Backpage that she wasn't supposed to be doing. Yeah, it was really ridiculous. But so, needless to say, I kind of have firsthand account of that. That was crazy. So my next question. And I'm going to probably let you kind of break into this. Why does sex dominate the Western culture?
Oh, in my opinion, it's because it sells.
It's what?
It's because it sells. So it makes money, right? Because
I mean, it's the oldest profession in history.
Right, because in Western culture is all about feeding off of our natural desires and inclinations, no matter what they are. Right. Fear is another one. Right. So they'll social media, everything. The reason you see more negative things is because we tend to look at more negative things longer because of a survival mechanism. So it's natural to look out for negative things because in case something might happen. Right. Sex is another natural drive. It's natural.
So my question is, So I agree with what you're saying there, but my question is now that we have it at our hands, is it more we're curious and we want to see these negative things? So like you see a lot of people on like Instagram or on Facebook, or they post pictures of people fighting or just weird, crazy things happening. But now that we have the ability to access taboo things, that mind has been stirred, and it's not so much as raw nature as it is now. Ooh, I can go check this out. I can go see people being murdered. I can go see this and I can see that because I want to.
The things that they're seeing itself is not the nature, but the system upon which the images is playing upon is absolutely nature.
Okay.
Right. So like it's not natural to see all the murder, right? But the negative emotion will tilt toward it, right? Second, it's also a coping mechanism to get us out of the world that we're in.
Okay.
Right? And so we'll get into it. It serves a need. It's fulfilling a need. Whether it's the fear stuff or the lust stuff, it's fulfilling a need that we're not getting.
Okay.
For whatever reason.
And this is why nowadays I find that it is like, so I always compare nowadays to back then, like the Old Testament or when the Bible was actually put together. And I always think, like, I think I even told Miss Amanda this. I was like, back then they didn't really have as much stuff to get in trouble as they do now. Like now everything is at the palm of your hands. You can literally see somebody naked all the way across the world. You couldn't see that back then.
No,
now there's so much going on. We're driving on the roads. You know, it's just there's so much here to get us in trouble.
That's why we need to preach discipline and self-control even more.
Right.
And that's what this comes down to, is that people want what they want when they get it, and they don't want to prolong. They don't want to go through the development in order to get it.
Right.
And that's which we'll get into that some more, but. So that's the reason Western culture, because all cultures seem to have sex, right? But the Western, because we're more driven by money and sex sells, right? It's just it's one of our things that sells.
So I'm going to throw in another curveball, and this maybe you can totally bypass all this if you want to.
No.
Kama Sutra, it's almost as a religion.
Okay.
And you know what Kama Sutra is all about, the sexual, formations and stuff like that. How are they? What I don't get is how they're creating that into a religion like that. It almost is a spiritual. It's supposed to be a spiritual connectivity, and I don't like. To me, it's just like, dude, y'all are just being freaky.
So my opinion.
No, that's great.
I've never thought about this before. Like you've never asked me this question before. So sex is so. We were created spiritual beings, right? Like so before sin, we were created. So think about it. God is a spirit. We're physical, but in the beginning, we were created as physical beings, created as part of our design to be able to communicate and interact with the spirit world, right?
Right.
So we're very much spiritual. And so you have the spiritual world. Think about God, Holy Spirit, angels. That's the spiritual world.
Right.
Then you have the natural world, which is like like animals, and the created world. And then humans are both. we're created with spirits.
Right.
Right. So we wedge the two. So whenever a man and wife get together in marriage. How deep do you want to go?
I don't need a birds and the bees talk. We're good.
It's not. But we can get very.
I just wanted a quick. So what I was trying to go with was just trying to understand how, because I don't think that Kama Sutra is literally a man and a wife. I think it does actually. Just basically be sexually free or express sexual freedom.
So that's
but how do they try to make that into a religion? Like, so I know there's an evil behind this, obviously.
So sex in and of itself was created as both a physical and a spiritual thing. When Paul says that a man and wife becomes one, he said, I don't know. I'm hoping I'm quoting this right. But he's talking about he doesn't really know how this truth is so, but it is that the man and wife become one.
Right.
Everything in the spiritual, we also have a physical component to it, right? So sex is not only a physical commitment, but it's a joining of spirits in a covenant. It's a spiritual act.
Okay.
Right? So then Kama Sutra or any of this stuff, it is taking the reward from something that was meant as a physical and spiritual and just interpreting it and morphing it into something else.
Just nothing but pleasure instead of the actual... because Sean McDowell does kind of talk about it, I do believe, in here a little bit, and we're getting ready to hit his blog here in just a second. But yes, that's exactly what I was looking for, was that correlation, that how they're tying this into a religion. And I really just don't. I think it's just people that want to get freaky.
They are fit because they're feeling the spiritual connection, but they're feeling it outside of order.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. So after our statistics, so you've answered the question with why does sex dominate the Western culture? I did come across this really good article. Not to put you down or anything. Mm-hmm. No, you did a really good job explaining that. So Dr. Sean McDowell, some of you might be familiar with him. The man's got a YouTube channel. He's very to-do over in California with Christian schools.
Oh, in California, throw him out. I'm kidding.
It's all Kama Sutra over there. Anyways, so his blog, as I was looking, it was really good, but I only chopped out the most important pieces. So he says, number one, why does sex dominate the Western culture? Is our culture has lost belief in God. To me, that makes a whole lot of sense. You see it today. For one, it's horrible that they're flaunting Baal or Satan in your face like every other day. They're putting up a new statue, or it's okay for people to flaunt this everywhere, even though we have a country that's based for religious freedom. Mm-hmm. I find it very disgusting that people are, and I feel like they're doing it on purpose. I don't feel like this is literally their religion. I feel like they're doing it, well, I'm mad at God, so I'm going to go be a Satan-worshipping butthead, And I really feel like that is the case. Somewhere, somebody got butthurt, and, and somewhere in the Christian faith, and then turn around, and they went the opposite end just for spite. Yeah, and I really feel like that's where we're at right now.
Some of it, but some of that, to me, comes from, like, a place of hurt, though. Right. And then some of it is they just want to go against the grain. That's that's it.
And forgive my mouth because it really irritates me a lot because they just put the one out in front of some courthouse, the big statue of Baal.
I know.
Yeah, the goat and the whole. I'm not doing Illuminati signs. Calm down. Anyways, but they just put that statue, and I don't remember where it was at. Maybe you guys will know. But it's irking me because I feel like it's being done out of spite, and it's not.
Oh, I don't doubt that there's some sort of working behind the pictures to put up something like that. Like it's intentional, right?
Well, I'm not even going like conspiracy side of it, so like Illuminati and all that kind of stuff. Yes, I agree with what you're saying, but I feel like the normal person that gets involved in it is doing it out of spite.
Yeah. I'm not referring to. I'm referring to influence, like a spiritual influence.
Okay. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like that.
Yes,
that's absolutely what I mean. Yeah,
I agree, 100%. Definitely. So, number one, he says, is our culture's lost belief in God. I would say more so that it's not that they've lost belief in God. They're being programmed that it's okay to spite God. Is what I'm seeing. So I'm going to flip on what he's saying and literally say that I feel like this is a spiteful attack against God. And it's all being led by, obviously, otherworldly, a demonic attack, if you want to go that route, whatever.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Against God or against the Christian God?
Against God.
Okay.
God's God. To the Christian or not, it's God.
Yeah, but the reason I ask is I don't know if it's a pushback on the idea of God itself, but rather a pushback on the Christian conservative God.
The Christian faith.
Yeah, like the God that has, like the predominant idea of God in this country over the last 50 or 60 years, right?
Right.
I think it's more of a rebellion because I don't think people are opposed to the idea of God itself, right?
Right.
But rather this, they don't like the Christian God.
So
Christian God that's been laid out in front of them.
Fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. And fair enough because, that is what you hear, especially out of atheists, is it's the attack on Christianity. And it has been for a while. So, but yeah, no, you're right. The Christian God, what they think the Christian God is.
Yeah, because I think people are open more than ever to the idea of God, but just as they choose it to be.
Absolutely. We had this talk on Sunday in class, and we were talking about literally my truth versus the truth, and the way I see God versus the way God is, and no, it was a great conversation. Anyways, so number 2 is our culture has lost belief in immortality, and he quotes Apostle Paul, "If there is no resurrection, let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die." So his connection here to immortality is literally, I'm going to die anyway. Pretty much there's no afterlife. Mm-hmm. So why not just go out and have sex and do whatever I want to do, party it up and have a good time, woohoo, YOLO.
Or they've lost that there's a consequence in that there's an afterlife and there's a consequence in the afterlife to what you do today.
So number 3 is our culture has lost belief in the sacredness of sex. Yeah, you just touched on that just a minute ago. talking about how it's actually a sacred act, how we become one, the whole 9 yards. And yes, I believe that out of boredom, out of spite, out of you said it creates money and revenue, out of pretty much everything that we want in this world, sex leads to it all. Because sex can get you everything you want. Sex can get you money. It can get you power. It can get you fame. I mean, sex leads to everything. So why not use it to get where you want it, right?
No, absolutely.
All right. Anyway, Sean McDowell states the Bible is not against the proper use of sex. And I believe, was that you or your brother that was talking about this?
I'm not positive.
Okay. I thought it was last Sunday, but anyways, it says Sean McDowell states the Bible is not against the proper use of sex, but it is against its abuse. God designed sex, after all, and made it pleasurable for a reason. And he quotes Proverbs 5. Scripture tells us sex is a beautiful gift from God that involves a sacred union between a man and a woman, not a man and a man, not a woman and a woman, not a woman-man and a man-man-man, just a man and a woman, and as a way can bring glory to God. And then he quoted 1 Corinthians 10:31. You want to look that one up?
Yep.
Now, this one I do remember it gives a specific way that it actually glorifies God through sex.
10 what?
10:31.
So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God.
So there you go. So when you're making love to your spouse or your wife, it can be done in the glory of God.
No, absolutely. See, whenever it was talking about, it was a couple Sundays ago that I talked about
pleasure.
Yeah, right. So we were all designed, like the things that our survival depends upon are pleasurable, right? So,
right.
Like that speaks to the goodness and love of God. Because what if sex hurt, right? Or what if food was painful?
And this is exactly what you were talking about not last Sunday, but the Sunday before.
Correct.
And it was amazing. It was good stuff.
He made us in such a way that the things that our survival depends upon is pleasurable, which is awesome. Reading that also, I had some notes written down. So sex has good and bad, right? There's sex. So in the same way, so lust is a heightened, focused attention, right? So if I'm lusting after somebody, I have heightened attention and I'm focused on them, right? Attention in and of itself is therefore, but is not wrong though.
Right.
So here's a question. I'm in Walmart. I see a hot chick walking by. Let's say
you might want to edit that one out.
let's say I like Sierra, right? Russell Wilson's wife, right? So Russell Wilson's wife, Sierra.
I don't even know who Russell Wilson is.
The quarterback for
I don't watch football.
Oh, okay.
I only watch when the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. That's it.
Anyways, Sierra, she's a beautiful woman, right? Okay. See her walking by. To acknowledge her beauty is not to lust.
Okay. But to think sexual thoughts.
To desire her, to covet, because she's married to Russell Wilson, right?
Right.
To covet her, desire her with a focused, unbridled attention with the end goal of lust is therefore wrong.
Okay.
Right?
So it's not to acknowledge that she's a beautiful woman is okay, but to be like, ooh, man, I want to smash that.
Exactly.
One of those.
Wrong. Yeah.
Right.
Because
sorry, Christians, I'm not trying to be rude. I just want to lay it out there for you guys.
See, because I think, and the reason I want to say that for both men and women, because a lot of, and I'm not saying if you're walking with your wife that you should ever say it or make your wife feel less than, right?
Right.
But I think there's sometimes in relationships, it's like the man has to look blinders straight forward, and there's like, you better not look, and there's like this control issue,
yes.
Right? But it's acknowledging beauty is not lust, right? It can lead there,
right?
But it doesn't mean that it's there. And so I think that's really important understanding the difference between the two. Just acknowledging something is one thing.
Right. So I want to go deeper in that because while you say acknowledging beauty, when you turn around and you look at specific body parts, that is lusting. That is not acknowledging beauty.
So let's say to stare, let's say to rubberneck, to do the those that. But if Sierra walks by, I'm kidding. That sort of stuff, yeah. That's where you are allowing. You're not. Because if you allow that process to keep going, you're going to begin to think about, to fantasize, to keep the thought train going. Right. So that's where you stop. Acknowledging
you lose that
something.
Ultimate self-control.
Yes,
gotcha.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Man, that was great. I like that. So anyways, number 4, our culture has lost belief that humans are made in the image of God. And then he goes on to explain, naturalistic evolution, he quotes, as the ideology behind his view on this reason, basically stating that humans are formed from a blind material and a purposeless process, basically giving humans a scapegoat to act like animals because the naturalistic evolutionary process doesn't make us much different than animals. Did you catch that?
No, yeah.
There's a lot of, I call it verbal diarrhea.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, I think that's two different issues, right? One leads to the other, but that we're not made in the image of God. Let's go back to the analogy of Sierra.
Right.
Sorry, it's just the first thing that popped into my head.
Yeah, I bet it did.
So when she's walking by, if I view her, or any good-looking person, male or female. If I'm viewing her as the image bearer of God, I'm respecting what I'm viewing.
Right.
Right. So if you're loving your neighbor like you're supposed to, then my mind is only going to view, no matter how beautiful they are, with the respect that the image of God deserves. Right.
Right.
So this beautiful person in Walmart admiring the beauty is one thing. But to take it further than that is to disrespect the image bearer of God.
Right. Yeah, I like that.
That's.
No, that makes absolute sense. Okay, so we're going to move on to number 5. And Sean McDowell puts this as number 5. The number 5 reason, finally, society is bored. And then he quotes that Gen Zers especially are now in a position where everything and anything they want is right at their hands, which allows people to live vicariously through others, mainly celebrities. All this creates a lack in meaningful life and creating boredom and a lack of purpose and a lack of a purposeful life. So he says that this will ultimately lead to sex becoming an obsession in society.
I wanted to speak to something really quick.
Yeah.
Whenever it says that they're especially bored, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything and anything they want is right at their hands. Bored. What is bored?
Can you elaborate a little bit? So boredom, I find, is, the way I look at it is they expect more and more and more, and every generation does because they were given more and more and more, and then you get to a point where you have everything, but you don't know what to do. So you lose that tenacity where something like a tree might bring joy to you because it's beautiful and you find the natural beauty in it. Imagination is one of them. Or you find the sound of a babbling brook. The sound, just meditating and just keeping you nice and calm. I think because of technology especially being at our hands, even though we have technology at our hands, like it says, it's created the lack of a purposeful life because we can check in and live vicariously through everybody else on YouTube. And it doesn't even have to be a star. It can be anybody that you just watch all the time. Yeah. You're living through their life, and you wish that you had that life. Now you're lusting, and you're wanting to have that. So that's a big issue here. What's your perspective on that?
So, no, along those same lines. So bored, a lack of stimulation in the environment.
Absolutely.
Right? So then the porn is creating a heightened stimulus that they're not getting other ways. And
So porn, sex,
any of
all
this-
those.
with this, and he's talking about purpose, which is so true too. So he's saying the porn is fulfilling the need, right? So
Right.
that's what addiction is, specifically for this. So porn addiction or sex addictions is fulfilling a need that they are not getting otherwise.
So addiction doesn't have to look like somebody who's constantly. Addiction could be just getting that rush.
The one that they can't stop on their own, and
Right.
that's creating negative.
But it
things
doesn't
in
have
life.
to be like every 5 minutes somebody's
Oh,
on the porn
no,
site.
absolutely.
It's just the getting that
Yes,
ultimate
it's-
rush out of it.
Whenever, so the thing, see, it's fulfilling. See what porn does is that it fulfills a need that they're not getting, and in this circumstance, porn is the easy route to the reward without the battle of developing the social skills.
Nice. I like that.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so
Absolutely.
I can if I
It's
look
the
at
cheap way out.
Yes, looking at porn, I get to release, I get the sexual release, but I don't have to invest in you. You don't have to invest in me. I don't have to talk to you. I don't have to I don't have to dress up.
I don't know why that was funny to me,
Nothing.
but it's just like
It's just-
see, it's like America, like I'm done with everybody.
Exactly. Well, that's kind of it.
Right.
They don't, and so it's the easy. It's the I want it now, and I don't want to put any work into it.
And that's really, and that you're right. I mean, that's where the adultery comes in a lot of times. People having lovers on the side because they don't have to invest emotionally, but they can go get that sexual pleasure and then come right back to the marriage life and do their own thing. And there's no.
Jordan Peterson talked about how porn it lowers the motivating factor for the man to get out and better himself in order to get the mate. Right. So when a person looks at porn, the sexual release that they get from the porn, that if they didn't have it, that would be the motivating factor to be a better person, to dress up, to
Right.
get out there. But the fact it's not just that the sexual frustration is released from the porn. It's also it reduces the motivator to make yourself better to be attractive to somebody else.
Right. No, and that makes sense. I mean, it gives you no reason to heighten not your abilities, but yourself. To make
absolutely.
yourself more appealing, to make yourself more attractive. Here I am talking about that barely. But no, I know I'm a beautiful person.
Yes,
I'm
you
a
are.
beautiful
inside
soul.
and out. You're beautiful.
But that makes total sense. It's it allows you for laziness, and I always say that Christianity just asks you to be responsible for your actions, and that's where I feel like that kind of comes into play. Is you're expected to be responsible for who you are and what you do. So if you come up with a scapegoat to allow yourself to let go. Mm-hmm. Then you're not going to be your best. You're not going to be your best for God. You're not going to be your best for your family. You're not going to be best for anybody. In fact, it may lead to other issues like pornography and lusting after other women and, drug addiction, sex addiction, whatever. It could be prostitutes. It could be anything. And
I guarantee you, I would put money on this, that every sex predator started with porn. Right? Like it didn't get there. It didn't just go from I have no sexual inclinations to I'm doing.
so do you think the effect comes from? So what can create that is an influence from things they've seen and then acting it out in pornography?
Oh, I got a reward for. It's like the boy that. The boy that gets aroused from the JCP the JCPenney's lingerie section, and then it goes to Playboy, then it goes to Penthouse, then it goes to they get a little reward, but after a while they need more. It's just like any other addiction. A little bit is okay, but then that stimulus, your brain literally it doesn't release as much dopamine the next time, so you got to do more to get the same level of reward because on a chemical level. So all of these sex predator acts, that's just it's a pathway to that all of these little things no longer kept the reward going.
Right. They had to go one step further. Right.
Yeah.
So my quick question, another curveball, talking about that, leading to things like the crazy stuff like whips and chains and what's it called? Oh, the dude that died hanging from a scarf. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, and so he was supposedly in the middle of self-gratification and was trying to choke himself. So would you say that addiction, that's the same thing? It's not necessarily an addiction, but it's them trying to get that ultimate high.
Yeah,
or that
so
ultimate buzz.
like the guy with the thing around his.
Yeah.
He didn't go from
Chester
never.
Bennington, I think it was.
He didn't go from never pleasuring himself to one day he's doing that.
Right.
It was a pathway, but this isn't working. This isn't working. Oh, I want to try more. Plus, you couple it with things in the personality. So a person that has higher levels of openness in their personality will be more. If let's say you have higher levels in your personality, higher levels of openness in your personality, coupled with a sexual desire that's unbridled, which is lust, right? Right. So let's say unbridled lust in a person that has no openness to experience might not result in that level of gratification in that level, right? But the right person with the environment that supports that is what produces that. So it's not just the act.
Right.
All of these behaviors, addictions, and the situations, it's usually like the perfect little storm of personality, genetics, environment, and a lack of self-control and a coping mechanism, all kind of wrapped together. And for me, I believe sexually, it's always loneliness. It's a lack of another. It's isolation. I'm going to be alone. I can't, because it's always meant to be with somebody else.
Right.
And so it's trying to fulfill this need without having to actually get close or not wanting to, feeling like you can't. Some sort of coping mechanism.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I was going to say it's just people like to enjoy it, but
but why?
I agree with the whole coping mechanism, but I feel like there's other things to go get gratification out of. I feel like other people lose sight of reality, which it goes back to what you were saying, but I feel like they lose sight of reality, like, oh, I'm married to the same person, I'm beloved to the same person, in and out every day, same thing over and over and over, and now they feel like the grass is greener on the other side, so they step out instead
isn't that to cope with that feeling?
Okay, fair enough. You got me.
Right.
You got me.
No, it's the same thing. Most people think coping, whenever the word coping is used, they're thinking of coping from a traumatic event. Like they're doing it because they feel so bad, right? Not necessarily. It's just instead of dealing with this marriage, how can I get the marriage to be more exciting, to be more fulfilling? How can I get the marriage to give me the reward that I'm trying to get from porn?
Okay.
Right. Instead of doing it real quick in porn, why not invest the hard work and time into the marriage?
Right.
So I'm getting the benefit. Right. And so they're coping with the feeling that the lost passion of the fire in the marriage is
Excuse me.
It's all right. Is causing them. It's just not being able to. So all of these behaviors are done for one of two reasons: to either relieve a negative emotion or to enhance a positive one. And pornography is the exact same thing. They're either trying to enhance or to relieve. If that makes sense.
No, absolutely, fair enough. Like I said, I was coming at it from that angle of like a major trauma.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense to me. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the effects. So everybody listen up. Guys, the statistics are in, and effects of pornography on your relationships are not good. I came across an article by fightthenewdrug.org, and pornography is the new drug. People are just constantly becoming addicted to it. Number one says, apparently, according to the article, how porn can negatively impact love and intimacy. Pornography viewers demonstrate more negative communication. They feel less dedicated to their relationship, less sexually satisfied, and commit more infidelity. That goes back to what you were just talking about.
Yeah, because they're instead of getting everything that you just said, instead of getting those things from their spouse,
Right.
putting in the work, they're getting it from a computer screen without having to do any work.
Right. It's ridiculous. They can get everything that they want, all the pleasure that they want, but it only lasts for 15 minutes. So to get that feeling of love and that fulfillment, now you have to go back and do it again 30 minutes later to get that 15 minutes of fulfillment. And this is where that addiction starts to set in, because you become addicted to, like you said, that feeling. It also says, believe it or not, pornography also creates low self-esteem. I don't understand how. Well, actually, I do. You're constantly viewing people that are, especially if you're into the fantasy porns, pornography. They create this woman with the perfect body, perfect, perfect this, perfect that, or it's perfect sex, or it's specifically a type of sex that's going on. I can see, like, I can't do that, so now, man, I'm becoming, I'm bumming out, because I almost would say, like, it would, as a person, if I'm coping or if I'm dealing with this and I see pornography and I have this addiction, I could see where I can't relate to them as much as I want to. Like, I really have this desire to live vicariously through them. But for one, the reality is more than likely your wife's not going to be that same type of person that you see on that film acting the disgusting way that poor girl is acting on that film. So that becomes a point of negativity. And now you are in a lower now you have lower self-esteem about yourself, because you don't get to perform that way, and two, you can't perform that way.
No, and then also when you look at it from, so that's the mirror effect or the comparison effect, right? So I'm comparing myself to what I see on the screen, and if I can't do it, I don't feel like I can live up to this standard, right? So then you have the other side of it also. It creates low self-esteem by not building the things that create confidence, right? So confidence comes whenever you go through something, you master it, you achieve it, and you can do it. Like, I've been through this, I'm confident that I can handle. When you're looking at porn, you're not talking to people, you're not meeting people, you're not doing the things that builds confidence. So the isolation in your room by yourself just supports low self-esteem. Isolation. I'm not doing anything for myself. I'm not, and it supports what all the social media does, right? I don't have to connect. I don't have to. Everything's on screens, and so porn is just another way to get the sexual fulfillment, but not actually
any kind of fulfillment.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, you explained it way better than I could. I was sitting over here like, but no, yeah, it definitely affects your self-esteem. And then I'm kind of lost in my notes here. I don't know what I did. Okay, so it also can show that porn consumption can undermine trust in a relationship and fuels conflicts between couples. I'll let you go ahead and touch base on that one.
It's the whole trust issue, right? If I have a wife, or goes both ways, this is just my opinion, right? What we were talking about being whenever you see admiring the beauty of a woman, right? There's nothing wrong in that, right? But the job is sexual arousal, not job. The place of sexual arousal within the marriage context belongs to my wife. Right. So she sees me being aroused and getting off by looking at another female, when that's her place. That she's supposed to be that one.
Yes.
Right.
I like that. That's awesome.
And so whenever I'm giving, that's supposed to be hers.
Yeah.
She wants that. Like she wants me to the same thing that this computer screen
Well, it's
is
her
causing.
God-given place.
Yes,
We are married. I made a promise to you to be faithful to you, and only basically make love to you, as we talked about earlier, that it is pleasurable, but you can also give glory to God in that commitment, because there's a covenant between me, my wife, and God. And ultimately, that is her role in that position, and you are giving that to somebody else.
Correct.
No, I totally agree with that. That's amazing. That's fantastic. Listen up, guys. We're giving out tips. So I had another question I wanted to ask you. Over here it said, so it was the same line. It can undermine trust in relationships. So another way that it undermines trust is 9 times out of 10, if you're married, you're sneaking off. You're doing things behind your wife's back. If she catches you, what's going through her mind now? It's literally, what else are you hiding behind my back? Are you running off with a woman? Are you out doing drugs? Are you out doing this? Are you out doing that? So I can understand where they talk about how it creates and fuels a trust issue in a relationship. And ultimately, relationships, if they don't have trust, they're done.
No, absolutely. And then also, because if she catches you doing that, her mind's going to think, okay, you're just looking at porn right now. Where is this going to lead?
Well,
right?
That, and I'm not good enough for you.
Yeah,
like, we married each other. We made this promise to God, but you're not fulfilled in that.
Absolutely.
So that fulfillment loss, and to me, honestly, that would break my heart. Like, for my wife to be like, dude, like, I can't even believe you just.
How about using it as? What are your thoughts on using it as a way to spice up the relationship? So a lot of marriage counselors, not secular
I got the
marriage.
statistic here.
Okay, a lot of secular marriage counselors actually not a lot. There are marriage counselors that encourage porn in the marriage to spice it up. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, for one, porn's gross. It's really gross. Like, I'm not gonna lie. As a young guy, yeah, absolutely I did. But I don't know. For real, I don't know if I want to go into this for real, because if I'm gonna make love to my wife, the way I see it is I want to be focused on my wife.
No, absolutely.
No matter what. I don't want some weird noises in the background, some dude moaning and groaning. I don't want to see other people naked on TV.
Yeah, absolutely.
That doesn't turn me on. You know, and I know my wife is probably going to shoot me for talking about this. No. But if I'm going to make love to my wife, I want to make love to my wife. And absolutely. I only want to think about her, and I only want to be a part of her. That's it. I don't want anything else going on around me. Like, So how about Christian couples that want to use that in their marriage? What do you say to that? I say, I have a few tips down here on how to fight that, but I say invest yourself back in your wife.
Into each other.
If you want to spice your life up, let's go get lingerie. You know, go role play, do things like that. Continuously keep your wife and your spouse activated in the situation. Figure out
whatever need that porn is meeting. Figure out how the marriage can meet that need.
Right.
And
they actually on here they have a few ways to kind of combat it, and we'll get into that because that's kind of part of it. But no, absolutely, I agree. It's, man, if you're going to go invest your time in another woman, dude, you've got 5-10 years invested in a family. It's not just another woman. You have an entire family, and you're out seeking pleasure from some loose hussy. It's just running around and flashing her stuff everywhere. Like, no, come on. To me, there's more intimacy there. And intimacy to me is everything. It's more important because the connection is so much better. You know, and intimacy is important. It's not just being intimate, which the way the secular world will have you believe that it's literally having sex. To me, intimacy means a connection and being, like you said, one. And it is for my spouse only. It's not for any other woman. So that, I feel like intimacy is super important, and that by reconnecting that intimate moment or the intimacy within your marriage, will ultimately bring you back that pleasure.
No, absolutely.
You know, but it's up to you. You can't just, I expect you to do this in the bed, and I'm going to be a lazy lover. You know, it's
figuring each other out.
It is, and it's giving and taking. You can't just take all the time. You got to give. You got to make sure that you're giving your woman the intimate parts that she's looking for too.
Or women giving your man, right?
Well, like I said, we feel like this is more of a man thing, and the ladies are over there like, yes, it is. But no, so where did I go here? I think, was that the last one? Oh, so no, I said I had the statistic here, and it said we were talking about for Christian couples and couples just in general, it says pornography, and even as married couples, pornography consumers as couples are twice as likely to divorce or break up.
No, I don't doubt it.
So they're over here pushing this on you guys. Is it a conspiracy theory to get more divorces?
Yeah.
No, I honestly feel like what they're trying to do is give you the advice to try to spice up the life, but it ultimately creates envy because you're focused on somebody else that's not your spouse. And I just don't agree with it. I think when you're making love, you should be 100% focused on that person that you're making love to, your wife, and that's just how it should be. That's the way it was meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
And then it's the last one I got here is, I think we've already kind of touched base on this. Porn creates a false expectation in relationships, fueling more insecurities. Mm-hmm. So what do you want to say on that?
It's that comparison or that mirror, right? You see that female on TV doing something, and you think, "Oh, my wife should do that,"
right?
Or just the whole.
Or why doesn't my wife look like that?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
My wife is a real woman.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want is a real woman, not some floozy that's just like, oh, I can take my clothes off anywhere I want. Like I have a woman at home. I don't want some dingbat,
Yeah, absolutely.
And not to insult women, but I got a real woman at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but yes, porn creates that false expectation that, oh, my wife should look like this woman or my wife should look like that. And keep in mind, she buried you 2-3 kids and, that's beauty to me.
Yeah,
that is absolute beauty to me. Like she gave you 2 kids. Like you should be over there like, man, you're still gorgeous.
Yes, absolutely.
And then finally, moving past that, we've come down. I came across this website that had a couple tips on how you can kind of combat the temptations. I'm going to add one at the end as well. Anyway, the All Pro Dad website gives these tips to help combat sexual immorality and temptation. Number 1, obviously, avoid tempting situations. What are your tempting situations there? Because I feel like it can be everywhere.
No, absolutely. And these also, I know it's, we're not just talking about married or these are tips to combat the temptations of sexual urges, right? So this is for these are for everybody. Avoiding tempting situations is just like being alone, not just being in places that you can always feel the energy of a person. You kind of know, you know what I mean. Avoiding tempting, like with porn. If you need to put things on your computer, every time you put blockers on the computer, don't watch shows that have a lot of visual stimulating things, music, everything. I mean, the more that you put in front of your eyes, the more that you're going to focus on it. You know what I mean?
Right. And then they go on for. I feel like this is the most important one right here. Always, always consider the consequences. It's enough to go back and ask God for forgiveness for the impure thoughts that you're having. But, man, if you act on these thoughts, think about the fact that you are destroying your family. You're putting your kids through all kinds of literally hell. Mm-hmm. And what you've just done to the person that you swore to God that you would love forever, no matter what. Mm-hmm. You just destroyed her.
This is the most likely the one not to be done, especially when you're dealing with an addict, too. Mm-hmm. Or not just an addict, with somebody that struggles with it, because all of the consequences they're going to justify and think that there's going to be a way around it. So using focusing on consequences, training that as a habit is a really good tip. Because most likely you're not in the moment, any consequence that you're thinking of, you're also justifying it and say, "Oh, that's not going to happen to me."
Right.
You know, that sort of.
No, absolutely. No, I agree with that 100%. And it's really sad because in the world we do not, on anything, it doesn't even have to deal with sex, we do not stop and consider the consequences.
Or it's not going to happen to me.
Right.
I'm not a statistic.
Like, even my boss is like, stop and think, what can happen? Like, who stops and thinks what can happen? Man, I'm trying to get my job done. I'm just going to go and do it. So I get it. It's one of those things, like, you just don't do it. And I feel like that takes a lot of self-control and self-discipline to get yourself to train yourself, like you said, to consider the thought, or to think about the consequences that can actually happen from your actions of what you're about to do or thinking about doing. This one's another great one. Number 3, use social media with caution.
So I wish I could remember the numbers specifically. In the last few years, Facebook and social media sites have been listed in something like 80% of divorces.
Wow.
So yeah, it's literally Facebook, Instagram, they've been named personally in something like, I'm pretty sure I'm pulling that out right, something like 80% of divorces over the last few years have specifically named social media, like Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that.
And that makes sense, because if you go back up to our statistics that we had about pornography and internet use, it literally said that 70% of women admit to hiding their, or not sharing their online information, which means they're on Facebook, chirping in people's DMs and whatever, which is the same thing with men. Men are doing it too. Mm-hmm. Again, we have lost sight of how sacred sex and marriage really is. And so, again, just to recap back on what we were talking about earlier, number 4, I feel like this goes along with number 2, that it's not going to happen. Question your intent.
Yes, and I like this one though because of the Bible says there's a verse in the Bible that says work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, right? So in that whole work out your own salvation is your belief. You're working it out. So God's not going to tell you to do something if you don't have the ability to do it. So working out your salvation means you're looking in the mirror and being honest with yourself and saying, where am I with God? What's my motives? What's my intent? All that. Right. So this thing of question your intent, it's, when you talk to that person, well, I'm just going to search this and see what might come up. Like, come on, man, you know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, so that's
but ultimately that holds you responsible for your actions.
Oh, absolutely.
Now the problem is like you said, can you look yourself in the mirror and be honest with yourself and stop yourself? I don't think it can happen. A lot of people, I feel like you said, they're going to justify their actions. They're going to be like, oh, well, nobody's watching. So which character is defined as what you do when nobody's looking.
Yeah. And there's a verse in the Bible that talks about how people read the Bible, and they refer, it might be in James, where they refer to it as a mirror, and said they look in the Bible like a mirror, seeing the dirt on their face and turn around and forget it. Right? So they look in the mirror, they see what's wrong, but they're like, oh, it's all right, and they turn around and they do their own thing. So questioning your intent is not just questioning it, but it's seeing the intent, the dirt in the mirror, and wiping it off. But most people don't.
No, they really don't. And I think as we move like further from like, the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s, where there was strong Christian background in most households, that ultimately this world has created the illusion of they call it. They claim it in the Hellfire Club, Ben Franklin and all them, that just do as you will, do as you want, go out and just have fun, blah, 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 which goes back to, again, what we were talking about earlier, which was...
eat, drink, and be merry.
Right. So let's see, what's this other one that's on here? Again, we've already kind of touched base on this one. So number 5 is practice sexual intimacy with your spouse. It says, when our minds and hearts are occupied in the right place, sexual lust has little room to operate. And I like that little quote. If you're more focused on your wife, you're more focused on your family, you're more focused on doing things to keep your wife happy, you really
your
don't
marriage.
have time to think those nasty thoughts. You don't have time. I would say like you're not on there's not an empty vase for temptation to come in. You literally are full, and you don't have to worry about
Correct.
those things setting in your mind.
Let me speak to a different side of it. So I'm divorced, right? So I'm a single man. So it's a little different being single, going through this, and then whenever you're being married, right? So whenever we're talking about keeping your heart and your minds occupied in the right place and focused, right? And I know it's so cliche, and they almost, not that they ruined it. You know, the What Would Jesus Do?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I know it's very cliche.
I still love it though.
Right? But it's so true.
Right.
It's the most simplest thing, right? So as a single man, and actually as a divorced man, so it's you have a wife, then you don't.
Ladies, he's single.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Having somebody and then not, it puts a different twist on it, right? Because you've had the relationship, the person laying next to you in the bed, you've had all this, but now you don't, right? So it's this not just longing for something I've never had, but it's longing for something that I did have, right? So looking at it from that, how to keep your mind and heart in the right place for the single man and woman is that when you truly have the lens on how can I love this person to the best of my ability, right?
Right.
That's just, if you can develop that lens with just not just like I intentionally have it with you and I intentionally, just the lens that I have before I encounter everybody is to try to love them like Jesus would.
Right.
Lusting after her, sleeping with her, leading her on or leading him on, all of these and things are not what's best for them, right? And so when the sexual desire, like when you see you're a single guy or girl or guy, you're at the gym and everybody's scantily clad or whatever, working out in front of you, and you see things that lead your mind down those things. If at the very beginning, right, the Bible says, take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ, right? So you take it at the very beginning. You're in the gym and you're lifting, and some girl in workout clothes bends right over in front of you. You keep your mind, and I'm not. This isn't some cliche. This isn't like some foodie doody thing. But if you really have the lens, what is best for her right now? Not me. What's best for this stranger that bent over in front of me? That any man that sees this is going to go down that
drooling over.
Yes,
right.
I mean it's a person at a gym bent over. Like, how do you stop that? If you can get in your everyday life what's best for her in the eyes of God, right? It stops it. It stops it.
It's interesting,
right? Because I want to love them as best as I can.
Right.
That's my priority above my own.
So you're saying when you achieve that phase where you can actually be honest with yourself,
then it pauses it. I don't have any, because it's not what's best for them, and then I'm not even trying not to lust after this person. Mm-hmm. It's just it's not. It's just not what's best for me or for them. So for me, when I'm in the gym and that happens, and guys that go to the gym, not that I've been going a lot lately, you can probably tell, but for guys that go to the gym, I guarantee you this is a problem, right? I guarantee it.
Absolutely.
And so when you
I feel like that's one of the number one places that
exactly.
women get harassed at.
So when you're at the gym and there's all people dressed in different ways, if you can keep the lenses, what is best for this individual? Not even looking at yourself. Just it's not wrong to see this beautiful person and for it to trigger something, right? But right then, bring that thought obedient to Christ. And how you bring it obedient to Christ is how would Christ love them.
Gotcha.
Right.
I like that. That's a good answer.
It's just something for single, for when it's for anybody. But looking at lust and porn and this stuff from a single perspective,
but I feel like a single perspective is going to be a little harder than a man that's married. I got that.
It's because a single person, it's okay to look, right?
Right.
you're trying to see if there's an attraction, to see if we can go further. I'm not bound to any. So the balance is a little where if you're married, it's stay away.
It's a little bit of a gray area.
It is. It really is. Because if you're married, stay away.
Yeah.
Like anything. But if we're not married, we're trying to fill each other
find a
out
partner
without crossing the line.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely. Ladies, he's single. So we went through all these. Let's see here. Okay. This one's big. Pray consistently. I feel like as soon as that temptation's hitting you, it's time to pray. As soon as, just within the seconds that it's just popping in your head, you should be, boom, hey, God, I need help. I'm deviating from the journey that you've set forth for me, and I need your help to bring my mind back to it. And it's definitely time to call on the big guy. So I definitely feel like praying consistently, for one, not just for in the moment, but staying in prayer for all those kinds of things. Staying to keep your mind right and keep wisdom and stay strong in your mind, I feel is going to be way.
I think one way we can look at this, especially coming from Messenger Church, if you go to this church, but Charismatic Circles is also using.
And I do go to this church.
Instead of pray consistently, which is yes, absolutely. But the purpose of that is to be aware of the presence, right?
Right.
Because praying consistently is your prayer is a focused conversation with God. So it's consistently connected with the Holy Spirit is a big way.
So I think that also goes back to when we were talking about when our minds and hearts are occupied in the right place, sexual lust has little room to operate. So keeping your mind focused on God, focused on Jesus, focused on your spouse and your family, you really shouldn't have too much concern with lustful thoughts. I'm not going to say they're not going to creep in once in a while. They do. But stay focused on, the goal at hand, and you should be good.
Philippians 4:8. I pulled this up a second ago.
Nice.
It says, let me find a good version I like. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellent, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. So it's telling you what to focus your thoughts on. Right. So when that girl in the gym bends over in front of you, don't keep thinking about it. Take your mind to things that are lovely, and you have the power to do that.
Right.
That's where nobody is without excuse.
Yes, holding ourselves accountable.
You can't control your thoughts. Right. I understand if you've been thinking about it for hours about this person because you didn't control your thought. But once you see that and that trigger comes in, snap it down right then. Don't let it keep growing.
For a couple hours. Yeah, no. Like, bro, you're just a perv, man. Turn your head. So we went through pray consistently, and then another one, which I really like this, is choose your friends wisely. Yeah. Sometimes the surroundings around us and the people, the influences, we don't always have the greatest people around us, and sometimes they're not looking out for your best interest. Sometimes they want what they want, or they think they can get something through you, whether they think you can go talk to a hot girl, and through them or through you, through her, they can get hooked up or whatever the kids are saying these days. That's talking about lust. I feel like if you don't have a good circle,
absolutely,
you're set up for failure.
And dudes, if anybody has worked any sort of construction sites, any sort of areas like that, I know it's hard to not be around those conversations, but just get out of the conversation. Like even if it means isolation while you're on the job, it's better than getting caught up in those type of conversations. That
is one thing that I do love about my job, specifically Marble Life St. Louis. I am a one-man crew. And that's how we operate. Most of our guys are foremen. They go out, they do their own jobs. They're by themselves. They don't have an apprentice or anything else. That I love because I can throw my headphones on and just go to town working. And a lot of times I don't have, even if I come across a customer who is really pretty or something like that, that just doesn't set in my head. It's all about the task at hand. It's about being professional, making sure that I provide, exemplary service, because our company's name is on the line, but making sure that they're getting the customer service that they deserve. And ultimately being professional and walking away.
No, absolutely.
I do find it, however, that when I have somebody with me, depending on the character, depending on who it is, I'll cuss. I will, and I'll have to catch myself and then switch my mind back to.
That's all right.
back to trying to go back to thinking cleanly and trying to be careful about what I say.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to lie. Cuss words come out of my mouth so easily. And I do try, but man, sometimes like when I get flustered, boom, they just start flying out. And I have to stop, recollect, and then come back. But again, this goes back to your surroundings, and if it depends on the character, but if you don't have the right people around you, what's going to end up happening is they're going to take you down the wrong path. They're going to make you deviate no matter what, because you don't want to let those people down, or you just want to fit in, or whatever it may be. So
you are who you're influenced by, and every environment is going to influence you in some way. So if you're sitting around people that are talking about this stuff all the time, you're going to give attention to it, and the more you give attention to it, the more you give thoughts to it, the more you get this whole circle going down. Your environment needs to support the goal of not looking at porn, not lusting. It needs to support whatever your goal is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And then number 8, keep a high standard. The way they explain this is keep a high standard. As a Christian, we should be trying to, and we just really kind of dove into this a second ago, we should be trying to operate with the highest moral aptitude as possible, being a gentleman, an upstanding citizen, a great member of your church, positive, you're loving the whole 9 yards, loving your neighbor. And that's one of the things that they give out here, which I feel is like almost absolute. Like I feel like up here where pray consistently, and when our minds and hearts are occupied in the right place, again, I feel like this is number 1. Number 5 right here. It's got like everything goes underneath number 5. Because down here, you should be a good Christian, blah, blah, blah. Number 5 is like kicking butt. So, and then number 9, redirect your lustful temptations back towards your wife. We kind of talked about that earlier on when we were discussing pornography use for Christian couples or in the secular world for couples. And then we found out that divorce rates are double when couples use pornography. So redirect your lustful temptations back towards your wife. Go ahead, take her out on a romantic date, dress up. Guys, go the extra mile for it, man. Our ladies deserve it. They're taking care of the kids. They're cleaning the house. They're working. My old lady's running a business. She's taking care of the kids, taking care of the house. Like, she's got a lot on her plate. So,
and women too. Like that goes both ways.
Take care of each other.
Yes, absolutely. Take women, put the time in to be something that your husband desires. You know what I mean? Because men tend to be more visual beings. So if you know that, then you know that your husband likes something, like you to wear a certain dress, then help. It's the responsibility of both people to keep it going. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. But I do feel like, I don't know. You know what? I don't feel like that, because I was going to say I feel like guys have a tendency to get wrapped up in their own, not their own wants and desires, which, yes, that's it, but like they get lost in the fact that, oh man, I've worked all day, so I want to go relax and I want to play video games, or, and I feel like sometimes there's an entitlement for men that they feel like they should just be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, guys, I'm not trying to beat you up, because I know women do it too. Edit that. But like you said, it should be both of us taking it. But I feel like sometimes there's an expectation out of men for women to be like, oh, go cook dinner, go do this, go do that. And hopefully not, but there should be no expectation. It's taking your wife for granted. And your spouse should be that number one person that ultimately you should be coming back to every day and be like, hey, thank you for everything.
Yeah, it's a team, right? The Bible says that Adam needed a helpmate, and this was it's roles. You can't do it without each other, and that's where the whole keeping each other as the first You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of helps deal with.
And,
with
well, I'm not beating up, and I don't want to sound like I'm beating up on the guys. I'm really not. I feel as a guy, that's where I see the perspective from, because I've seen myself be guilty of it, myself. But I just feel like maybe guys should make that extra attempt to. And I'm speaking to myself on this, honestly. This is a brutal, honest podcast. This isn't about being full of dumb and stupid things that we're just throwing out there. Like, you guys have to do this. We don't have to do nothing. Yeah. But no, the whole point is for us to all grow as a guy, seeing it through a guy's eyes, understanding that when I look in the mirror, like you said, that if I'm brutally honest with myself, where am I lacking at?
No, absolutely. Yeah.
So that's the ultimate, that's holding us to our ultimate highest self. And through God's eyes, we should always be constantly trying to get better. And so then I came up with, and so I didn't read on this number 9 where it says, redirect your lustful temptations back towards your wife. As you're tempted, train your mind on your wife and how you can please her. And not sexually necessarily, but just go back and think, oh man, I can stop and get this drink for my wife. Or, my wife loves this candy. My wife would love some flowers. I feel like in relationships, especially marriages, either side, and this isn't just beating up on the men, this is on both sides, men and women, we take each other so far for granted that we forget that the little things are the most important.
Oh,
that just the fact that she took 5 seconds to stop and say, hey, I grabbed you your favorite drink. Or, hey, I made dinner plans for us. Mm-hmm. Those things are what make marriages last. Ultimately, it's not always going to be flowers and potpourri.
No, yeah.
Or potpourri, however you pronounce it.
I like how he worded train. As your attempt to train your mind.
Right.
It's development. All of this stuff is over time. You're developing. You're training yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing. Like it says, redirect your lustful temptations back towards your wife. Again, with the single guy, what can they redirect there? And so for me, it's not you're not redirecting the lustful desires to something else. You're redirecting the mind completely, taking it to something completely. It's the same thing with any addiction. Anytime a bad behavior is triggered, right? So lust is a bad behavior. It's triggered by something else. You have the power to train your mind to go somewhere else.
Right.
And when you take your mind somewhere else, your body will follow.
Absolutely. I like that. We're making clips out of that one. So I think we're at the end pretty much, guys. Alex, did you have anything extra you wanted to say? I did. So I wanted, you had kind of stole it from me. I said I had an extra one to add down here at the end. Guys, there's all kinds of apps, all kinds of things, blockers, everything that you can put on your phone. If it's really that bad, put them on your phone, because at least when you try to access something, that reminder is going to pop up. And it's going to get you to start thinking and hopefully get you to go, ooh, maybe I shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
At least it's something that's reminding you I shouldn't be doing this.
So the more things that you put between you and the act is good, because you're like you said, you're training your brain to go somewhere else, so you're not fulfilling a desire.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm. So I think it's great that they have these blockers up now. So I think that's about it. That's all I've got, man. That was a great episode. Really good discussion. Alex, or anything that you want to add to everything? Or to anything?
No, that's it. I think I enjoyed this. I think we covered a lot. I liked it. I'm good.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting, positive conversation. Please don't come beat us up, because some of the things we said.
You can try. I'm kidding.
Yeah, Alex is a ninja.
Yeah.
So no, guys, we just wanted to convey this information to you guys. When Alex came to me about originally wanting to do a series on the 7 deadly sins, I felt like this was one of the most important ones out there, because I feel like this is what everybody struggles with the most. It's, for whatever reason, it is the most popular feeling of it. It wraps a whole bunch of different emotions in one.
Oh, I mean, you can't buy anything without sex. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you want to go to Burger King, you got some sexy chick on a car eating a burger. You know what I mean? So I mean,
hopefully you're talking about commercials, because
yeah, I know.
I'm not trying to go to Burger King.
No, remember back in the day, Well, they've had a whole bunch of different chicks, but whenever they would, I think Paris Hilton might have been one, eating a burger on the front of the car.
That was Hardee's, and that was Jessica Simpson.
Oh, okay.
And that was when she did the movie.
Well, look who knows.
I did. I'm a Christian now, but yes,
Okay.
I did because Jessica Simpson. Yeah, I did. I kind of liked Jessica Simpson a little bit there for a while.
Back
But
during
she was doing the Hardee's burger and
Dukes of Hazzard.
It was
Dukes of
yeah. See now who knows? Oh man, yeah. But yeah, it was that commercial that yes, I definitely like Jessica Simpson. But anyways, no, I felt like this needed to come out, guys. Hopefully, this is helping you out a lot. We really want to see that divorce rate drop. So please go through here, listen to what we've said, and apply it. Find other ways to help keep your marriage entertaining. Seriously,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I feel like that's the biggest issue, because when you take each other for granted, the entertainment value in your marriage seems to die off.
Yeah.
And then you no longer want to talk to each other. You don't want to say nothing. You're just like, hey, good night. Yeah. So yeah, get out there. Make sure your marriage is staying great. Alex, again, do you want to add anything, or are you good?
I'm good.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you. This has been another episode of Ignite Your Faith. I'm Jason. I was going to say I'm Alex. I almost did it. I'm Jason. This is the man across the table, Alex, and we are the Bearded Christians, you guys. Thanks a lot. Find us on Spotify, on Stitcher, on Pandora, YouTube. We even have a Facebook page, Ignite Your Faith. Go hit it up, and we'll see you later. Thanks a lot. We love you guys. Peace out.